There are different methods of generating the electric power. The electric power in which we are using for domestic purpose, for industrial purpose and for various other purpose is generated by means of different methods. One of the method is by making use of nuclear power plant, that means nuclear power generating station. The second one is hydroelectric power station by making use of water, and the third one is thermal power plant by making use of coal. Of course, there may be even other methods of generating the electricity, but these are the three main or important ways of generating the electric power, and most of the electric power in which we are using comes from the nuclear power plant. Majority of the power in which we are getting or using in the modern days is from nuclear power station. In our today's class, now let us discuss about the electric power and also about electric energy, and also let us derive an expression for the electric power in terms of different physical quantities. When we speak about the power, as far as physics is concerned, there are different types of power in which we come across in different situations. The very first one in which I am going to consider is mechanical power. That means in dynamics we come across the mechanical power, which is defined as rate of doing work. That means amount of work done in a given time. This is mechanical power. As far as now optics is concerned, we come across optical power of a lens. It may be a convex lens, or it may be a concave lens, or it may be of any type of lens. Optical power is given by reciprocal of focal length. F stands for focal length of the lens and P stands for the power of the lens. And now this is mechanical power, this one is nothing but optical power. Then we speak about the electric power. Electric power is given by P equal to V into I R, which is also equal to I square R, which is also equal to V square by R. So these are the different equations for electric power in terms of different physical quantities like voltage or potential difference, current, and as well as resistance. Now, these are the different types of power in which we come across in physics. Now, let us derive these equations. Expression for electric power. So, in order to derive the expression for electric power, what I do means, I consider one conductor, means a resistor or a piece of wire or a metallic rod, whatever it may be, and this is the circuit symbol in which I am using to represent the conductor or the resistor. Let R be the resistance of this conductor or resistance of this resistor. We know the difference between the resistor and the resistance. Resistor refers to a device, that means it refers to a substance and it can allow the current to flow, whereas resistance refers to the opposing property for the flow of current. Whatever current that flows through this wire or that flows through this conductor, that flow of current is opposed by material of the conductor, and that opposing property of the material of the conductor is known as resistance. So, resistance refers to opposing property, whereas resistor refers to a conductor or a metallic wire. Now, the two ends A and B of the resistor or the conductor are connected to a cell or to a battery. Now, what happens? By connecting the two ends to a cell or a battery, we are applying some potential difference between the two ends of the conductor A and B. Now, let VA be the potential at the point A, V of A. At the point B, let V of B be the potential. And let I be the main current that flows through this resistor. Because of potential difference, A is at higher potential, B is at lower potential, and we know that current always flows from a point of higher potential to a point of lower potential like this. Let us write this. Let now potential at A is equal to V of A. Then potential at B is equal to V of B. Then what is the potential difference between the two ends? Potential difference, or else I consider first the potential energy along with these potentials. Potential energy at A and potential energy at B. Potential energy at A is given by U of A equal to, how do you find mathematically the potential energy? Potential energy of what? Potential energy of the charges that flows through the wire or the conductor. If conventional current is flowing like this, it means that positive charges are said to be flowing in this direction, whereas equivalent amount of negative charges, that means electrons, flows from B to A, and we know very well that in a metallic conductor positive charge do not flow. It's only the electron that flows from B to A. What is the formula to find the potential energy? One simple formula is there. Potential energy is given by potential at A, that means potential at A multiplied by charge. Now what I do means, I consider delta Q as the charge that flows from A to B corresponding to this current. So let delta Q be the charge that flows from A to B with respect to this current. So potential at A means it is nothing but V of A, whereas charge means delta Q is the charge multiplied by delta Q, and this amount of charge flows in a time, how much? Delta T. Time taken by the charge to flow from A to B is delta T. Similarly, what I do means, I consider now potential at B, potential energy at B as equal to U of B equal to, once again, potential at B into charge. Potential at B multiplied by charge that is flowing. So what is the charge that starts flowing from A? It is delta Q, and the same charge reaches the point B. Both at A and B, the amount of charge that is flowing is nothing but delta Q. So I consider this as potential at B means V of B multiplied by delta Q. Okay, let us write now, where delta Q is the charge that flows in a time delta T. okay, from A to B. What's the current corresponding to this? I is nothing but current and R is nothing but resistance of the conductor. Now, what I do means, I am going to consider now the potential energy difference or change in potential energy. What is the potential energy change between the point A and the point B? Change in potential energy is given by, I write this change in potential energy as delta U, which is equal to final potential energy at B, initial potential energy at A. Remember, I am speaking the potential energy with respect to electric charges, that means electrons, potential energy of electrons. So, what is the final potential energy? So, final potential energy minus, final potential energy is U of B, okay, minus initial potential energy, okay. So, now I can write this as equal to delta U, which is equal to final potential energy, means it is nothing but U of B minus initial potential energy, means U of A. Let us substitute now for U of B and U of A by making use of this equation. What is U of B? U of A is V of A into delta Q. U of B is VB into delta Q. So, if I substitute for U of B and U of A, what do I get now? I get now change in potential energy delta U as equal to, for UB it is V of B into delta Q, okay. Then minus is there, for U of A what can I write? I can write V of A into delta Q. Now, let us remove delta Q outside. So, it is V of B minus V of A. What is this V of B minus V of A? It's nothing but the difference of potential difference. But we know that V of A is greater than VB. So, therefore, what I do means, I write this like this, minus of V of A minus V of B, okay. I write V of A first by removing negative sign. If I remove negative sign here, then minus VA will become plus VA and plus VB will become minus VB. So, for this I can write delta Q minus of, for the entire thing that is present inside the bracket, I can write the difference of potential between the point A and the point B, that is VA minus VB, as equal to, simply I can write this as V. So, we have now delta U equal to minus V into delta Q. Remember, a negative sign indicates that potential energy of the electron decreases. If potential energy of the electron flowing through the conductor decreases, then what happens means, the decrease in potential energy results in the increase of kinetic energy of the electrons. That means the decrease of potential energy equivalently increases the kinetic energy of the electrons. So, I can write like this, negative sign indicates that potential energy of electrons decreases, okay. then decrease in potential energy is equal to increase in kinetic energy. Increase in kinetic energy. So, I write like this. What is increase in kinetic energy means? Delta K, which is equal to potential energy. So, decrease in potential energy. See, delta U represents change in potential energy, but the negative sign indicates that potential energy decreases. Equivalently, kinetic energy increases. So, delta K can be written as equal to minus of delta U, minus of minus delta U. That means delta K is equal to delta U. See, it means that suppose if I consider conductor, electrons are moving like this. Electron moves always from the lower potential point to higher potential point. So, this is end B of the conductor and this is end A of the conductor. End B is said to be at lower potential, okay, whereas end A is said to be at higher potential. The electrons, while flowing like this, loses its potential energy, but at the same time kinetic energy increases equally. So, therefore, delta K is equal to delta U. Let us write for delta U. What is this delta U now? I write only the magnitude without minus sign. Then this becomes equal to delta U can be written as V into delta Q. So, delta K is equal to V into delta Q. But again I can substitute for delta Q. What is delta Q now? It is nothing but for V I write as it is, for delta Q I write this as I into delta T. What's the reason? How can I write this? Look here, we know that current is nothing but time rate of flow of electric charges. The current flowing through the conductor is I, which is equal to delta Q by delta T. So, this amount of charge flows in a time delta T from one end of the conductor to another end of the conductor. So, therefore, if you cross multiply this, then for delta Q I can write this as I into delta T as equal to delta Q. So, this is nothing but the increase in kinetic energy. Now, here we have to give some explanation with respect to this equation. We know that potential energy of the electron is lost, equivalently kinetic energy is gained by the electron. This gain in kinetic energy, what it does means, it makes the positive ions of the conductor and also the neutral atom of the conductor to vibrate vigorously, because kinetic energy of the electron is shared with the atoms and as well as the positive ions of the metallic conductor. When once the kinetic energy is shared with these atoms and positive ions and other electrons of the conductor, then these atoms and as well as the positive ion begins to vibrate more vigorously. So, the vibrational speed increases. So, the atom can vibrate either like this or like this, and similarly positive ion can vibrate like this or it can vibrate like this. When the vibrational speed increases, then what happens? The collision rate also increases. That means number of collision increases. When once the number of collision increases, due to this the conductor gets heated up. That means heat energy is produced in the conductor. So, change in potential energy or decrease in potential energy is converted equally into kinetic energy. And this kinetic energy now is converted into heat energy, because the kinetic energy is shared with the atoms and the ions of the conductor, vibration increases, vibrational speed increases. As a result of that, more and more collision takes place and heat energy is generated in the conductor. This means entire kinetic energy now is converted into heat energy. Rate at which heat energy is dissipated or amount of heat dissipated per second is nothing but electric power. So this is how I can define. That means in every second how much of heat energy is dissipated. How much of heat energy is dissipated, that is nothing but electric power. From where does this electric power comes from? The electric power comes from the source, because the source does some amount of work on the charges, and as a result of that work, what happens? Kinetic energy is generated, and that kinetic energy gets converted into heat energy because of collisions. So I write mathematically like this: power is nothing but the rate at which the heat energy is dissipated. So delta W by delta T I write. What is delta W here? We know that this is the amount of kinetic energy which got converted into heat energy. Therefore, for delta W, what can I write now means, but delta W is equal to delta K, because this amount of kinetic energy is converted into heat energy, and that heat energy is represented by delta W, because we know that how do you define energy? Energy is nothing but capacity to do work. So work and energy are always related to each other. Energy and work are always related to each other. So instead of writing delta E, I write delta W. Okay. So what happens to this equation now? P becomes equal to delta W, which is equal to delta K. What is delta K? V into I into delta T. V into I into delta T divided by delta T is there. So delta T gets cancelled. Now we get one equation for the electric power. What is that equation? Means P equal to capital P equal to V into I. So this is one equation for the electric power. Then according to Ohm's law, for V I can substitute I into R. I into R into I. So therefore P equal to I square into R. This is other form of the equation for the electric power. The other form of this equation is now P equal to V by R whole square into R, because we know that according to Ohm's law, V equal to I into R. This is what we have substituted here. Okay. So for V, what I have done, we have substituted I into R using Ohm's law. So therefore, what is I now? I is nothing but cross multiply this R and bring it to the denominator of V. So I equal to V by R. So this is nothing but V square by, this is nothing but V square by R square into R. So one R and R gets cancelled, then P equal to V square by R. So this is one more equation for the electric power. So we have three equations: power in terms of potential difference and current, power in terms of current and resistance of the conductor, power in terms of potential difference and as well as resistance. Suppose if I consider the equation, this equation, let us call this as equation 1. Okay. So from this equation, it is found that power depends on the potential difference between the two ends of the conductor and also depends on current flowing through the conductor. So if any one factor changes here, then power also changes. So these are the different forms of equations for electric power. So you have to remember one key point here. Source does the work on the charges. As a result of that, the work done is converted into kinetic energy of the electron. The kinetic energy is shared with the atoms and ions of the electron, and as a result of that, collision increases. Due to this, heat energy is liberated. Whatever amount of heat energy that is dissipated, that amount of heat energy is nothing but electric power. Now let us know the two definition. One is nothing but electric power and as well as electric energy. Amount of electric energy dissipated per second. This electric energy will be dissipated in the form of heat. Therefore, I can also say like this, the amount of heat energy dissipated per second. That means in 1 second, how much of heat energy is produced in the conductor? That is nothing but electric power. Or one more form of the power definition is the amount of work done per second by the source of EMF. So this is the source of EMF E. We shall define about EMF E little later. This source does some work on the charges. So therefore, whatever amount of work the source does on the charge in making it to move from one point to another point of the conductor every second, that amount of work done per second by the source of EMF in making the current to flow. In making the current to flow means in making the charges to flow. Either charges to flow through the conductor or current to flow through the conductor or in the circuit is known as electric power. So per second you have to consider, unit time we are considering here. Energy dissipated per unit time or work done per unit time. Unit time means unit second. And we also know that mathematically it is given by P equal to V into I square R equal to V square by R. Coming to electric energy, this electric energy is nothing but total work done by the source. How much of total work the source does as long as we keep passing the current through the circuit. That total amount of work done by the source of EMF in making the current to flow through the circuit. So this is the amount of current which has to flow through the circuit. For this, how much total work the source does? That is nothing but electric energy, and mathematically it is given by W is equal to P into T, power into time. So this is the amount of power in which it is utilizing for a time T second, and this is also given by P is nothing but V into I, because we know that P is equal to V into I into T, and also this can be written as I can substitute for V. I can substitute for V as equal to I into R, then I retain I and T as it is, so that now it becomes W equal to I square RT. So this is one form of electric energy equation, and this is another form, and one more form is this. You just know the difference here. Here we consider total work done by the source for a certain time, for a total time. Here the time interval which we consider is per second. So that's the main difference between this electric power and as well as electric energy. And what's the SI unit of this electric power? The SI unit of this electric power is nothing but watt. So this is nothing but SI unit represented by the letter capital W. So this is a smaller unit. Therefore, we can use bit larger unit also. So what is the larger unit? Look here, kilowatt. Okay, 1 kilowatt means 10 to the power of 3 watt. Or I can make use of megawatt. 1 mega means 10 to the power of 6 watt. Kilo means 10 to the power of 3. Mega means 10 to the power of 6. So these are nothing but the bigger units or larger unit used to measure the electric power. Then coming to the SI unit of electric energy. What the SI unit of electric energy means? Its SI unit is nothing but joule, or there is one more unit, watt hour. Watt hour. And remember, 1 watt hour means 3600 joule. What does it means? Suppose if you make use of an electric device of power 1 watt, and if you use the device of 1 watt power for about 1 hour, then in 1 hour 1 watt power electric device is going to consume how much of energy? 3600 joules of electric energy. So that is the meaning of watt hour. Or else I can also express this in one more form. What is that means? Kilowatt hour. What is 1 kilowatt hour? 1 kilowatt hour is nothing but equal to, kilo means 10 to the power of 3, and we know the value of watt hour. What is 1 watt hour? 3600 joule. So 1 kilowatt hour means 3600 into 10 to the power of 3 joules. Kilo 10 to the power of 3, watt hour 3600 joule. So these are nothing but the units used to measure the electric energy. We know that electric power is generated by different methods. That means using nuclear power plant, thermal power plant, and hydroelectric generating station. But how does this power is transmitted to different places like different cities, different towns, different villages, and for different industrial area? So this electric power is transmitted by making use of transmission cables, and these transmission cables runs for about several hundreds of kilometers or several thousands of kilometers. We know that the generating stations are a bit far away from these places. Usually generating stations are located in the reservoirs, that means in the dams. So right from the generating station to the different places, several hundreds of kilometers, the transmission cable should be drawn. So this is how the electric power is transmitted. But the thing is here, when we transmit the electric power by making use of very lengthy cables, then always some electric power is said to be lost in the cables. That means transmission loss occurs in the electrical cables. So by losing too much of electric power and getting only small amount of electric power at the receiving station is of no use. What does it mean? Suppose if at the generating station, say for example this is the generating station, if an electric power of, let us say, around 5 kVA is generated, then through the transmission cable, if it is transmitted to one of the particular place, required place, say for example receiving station, then by the time the electric power reaches the receiving station by means of transmission cable, then what happens means there will be power loss. At the receiving station, we do not get exactly 5 kVA power. We may get a power less than 5 kVA. Say for example, let us assume that we are getting a power at the receiving station of 3 kVA. So this 3 kVA is a huge, the 3 kVA means we have lost 2 kVA of electric power. The 2 kVA of electric power is lost because of the resistance of the transmission cable. So the resistance of the transmission cable, which runs for several hundreds of kilometers or several thousands of kilometers, is to be considered. Means it is considerable. We cannot ignore the resistance. Even though we lay low resistance cables, still because of its length, its resistance is to be considered. So that resistance may consume some amount of electric power, and as a result of that, we have a power loss of about 5 kVA minus 3 kVA means 2 kVA power loss occurs by means of transmission cable. Of course, this is only one rough numerical example in which I have given. This power loss depends upon the length of the transmission cable. It varies from one transmission cable to another transmission cable. Simply to understand this, how the power loss and due to what the power loss occurs, given some random values. This is the generating station at which electric power is generated, and it is transmitted through the transmission cable. Let RC be the resistance of the transmission cables, V be the potential difference between the two ends of the transmission cable, and I be the current flowing through the transmission cable. And now the power is transmitted through the transmission cable with the help of high tension power line pillars. So these are nothing but high tension power lines. Huge pillars are there, so which is of a greater height when compared to the normal power transmission pillars. Now here at the receiving station, whatever power we receive, I am going to connect that one to a device at the receiving station. To some device it is connected. Let P be the power that is consumed by the device and R be the resistance of this device. Now let us write everything. RC is the resistance of the transmission cable. Okay. Then V is the potential difference between the ends of the cable. Okay. Then I is the current flowing through the cable, and P is the power delivered to the device of resistance R at the receiving station. Now let us write the expression for the power that is consumed in the transmission cable. What the power means? It's given by PC equal to I square R. Okay. Then what is the power that is consumed by the electric device? P equal to V into I. Now I write this as RC because this is the power that is consumed by the electrical cable or the transmission cable while delivering an electric power P to this device. Remember, I am using here two powers. One is power consumed by the cable. Let us call this as PC. Whereas power delivered to the source is P. So PC equal to I square RC. Then what is I from this equation? I is nothing but equal to P by V. Substitute that here. So I square is there. I square means P square divided by V square into RC. So this is the electric power that is consumed by the transmission cable while delivering an electric power P to the device at the receiving end or at the receiving station. If you just look into this equation, RC cannot be ignored, resistance of the transmission cable. It should be taken into consideration because of its length. Then, if power loss in the transmission cable is to be reduced, what are the options we are left with now? Either we have to increase V or we have to decrease RC. RC cannot be decreased, already I told you. Now, only option left with us is to increase V. If V is increased here, what happens? If V is increased, then PC decreases. That means power loss. What is this PC? This PC is nothing but power loss that occurs in the transmission cable. So, this power loss can be minimized only if voltage is increased. So, what we do means, usually at the generating station, power is transmitted at very high voltage. When the voltage is high, current will be low. So, high voltage, low current power is transmitted through the transmission cable. Why means, in order to reduce the power loss, because if voltage is increased according to this equation, PC is inversely proportional to V square. So, if V is increased, then PC decreases. That means power loss gets minimized. So, therefore, high voltage, low current power is transmitted always through the transmission cable. But what happens here, at the receiving end, this high voltage power is not suitable. Say for example, at the receiving end, now we have an electric power of, let us say, 5 kVA. Okay, so this should be reduced now. The voltage should be reduced, 5 kilovolt ampere. Look here, 5 kilovolt ampere. Because this voltage is not suitable for use either for domestic purpose or for industrial purpose. Domestic purpose 220 to 240 volts is sufficient. For industrial purpose it may be 440 volts, or it may be even it may go up to 1000 volts. So, this voltage is not suitable and it is not safe. Therefore, what we do means, at the receiving station, this high voltage is reduced. It is brought down by making use of one more electrical device known as transformer. What actually this transformer does? Transformer is an electrical device. Either it can increase the voltage or it can decrease the voltage. If it increases the voltage, then we call that as step up transformer. If it decreases the voltage, then we call that as step down transformer. We study about the transformer in the forthcoming chapters. But here, which type of transformer is to be used or installed here? Because we have to reduce the voltage. We have to reduce the voltage either to 440 volts or, for example, 220 to 240 volts. So, if you want to reduce the voltage, here a transformer known as step down transformer is to be used. So, by supplying the power that comes from the generating station to the transformer, then from the transformer output is taken, and that output will be of low voltage which is suitable for any type of use. So, this is how the power is transmitted from the generating station to the different places or to the different industries or to the different cities. All that we need to do is, at the receiving end, reduce the voltage and make it suitable for the usage. So, here if voltage is reduced, then current increases. See the logic here. So, high voltage, low current. Same high voltage, low current receives the receiving station. At the receiving station, we use transformer and we convert that into low voltage, high current electric power which is suitable for use. So, this is how power is transmitted from generating station to different places. Let us study now how the resistivity of the metallic conductor like copper and alloy like nichrome and as well as semiconductor varies with temperature. That means, if we increase the temperature in all these substances, then how does the resistivity varies? That can be understood by means of a graph. So, the first graph represents the resistivity variation with temperature for the metallic conductor copper. We know that copper is a good conductor of electricity, and you have to understand here rho represents the resistivity and this is its unit, ohm meter, whereas here temperature is expressed in Kelvin, not in degree Celsius. For copper, how does the resistivity varies means, resistivity varies linearly around and above the room temperature range. So that means if I assume the room temperature as equal to 27 degrees Celsius, then if I convert this into Kelvin, then it becomes 27 plus 273 equal to 300 Kelvin. That means at this temperature range or slightly above this temperature range, how does the resistivity of copper varies? Means linearly. Means as you increase the temperature, resistivity also increases linearly. Whereas at a temperature much lower than 0 degrees Celsius, at temperature much lower than 0 degrees Celsius, then resistivity varies non-linearly. You can observe this from the graph. Look here, 50 Kelvin. Okay, so 50 Kelvin, 100 Kelvin, 150 Kelvin, all these temperatures are negative temperatures in terms of degrees Celsius. Suppose if I want to find what is the value of 50 Kelvin in terms of Celsius, how do I find? Use the formula T equal to T plus 273. What is T? 50 Kelvin. T plus 273. So if I shift this to this side and if I subtract this, how much I get? Or else you can consider this 100 Kelvin also. Look here, either I can consider 50 or I can consider 100 or I can consider 150. Suppose if I consider 100 Kelvin and I want to express this 100 Kelvin in Celsius, then if I shift this one, then what happens to T now? T becomes 100 minus 273, means it is minus 173 degree Celsius. So which is less than 0 degree Celsius. Therefore, at a temperature lower than 0 degree Celsius means how much it is? Negative temperature. What is happening to the graph now? Look here, the graph is found to be non-linear, because if it is a linear variation, then the graph would have been like this. It would have been a straight line like this. But we can notice the non-linear variation. So this is the graph indicating the variation of resistivity of copper with the temperature. At what temperature? At a temperature lower than 0 degree Celsius, because 50 Kelvin is less than 0 degree Celsius. 100 Kelvin is also less than 0 degree Celsius. Similarly, 150 Kelvin is less than 0 degree Celsius. Less than 0 degree Celsius means negative temperature range in degrees Celsius. So that's why non-linear variation. Whereas at this temperature 300 Kelvin, positive temperature, 27 degrees Celsius, positive, 300 Kelvin and above this, that means either at 27 degrees Celsius or about 27 degrees Celsius, or either at 300 Kelvin or above 300 Kelvin, the variation is found to be linear like this. And this is for temperature 0 lower than 0 degree Celsius. So remember this graph. Then coming to the nichrome. Nichrome is an alloy. The resistivity of alloy is very much greater than the resistivity of the pure metals. So resistivity, I write here, resistivity of alloy is much greater than the resistivity of pure metals. pure metals, very much greater. And not only that, the resistivity of alloys like nichrome, there are two more alloys, constantan, manganese, all these are nothing but alloys, nichrome, constantan, manganese, all these alloys possess more or less same property. What is that? Much greater, resistivity much greater than the resistivity of pure metals like copper, and these alloys have poor dependence on temperature. That means, suppose if I consider a piece of nichrome wire, if I heat this, then its resistivity is not going to change quickly. Whereas in case of copper, which is a pure metal, if you heat this, then resistivity changes quickly. There is a quick response of resistivity for small change of temperature. Here, for small change of temperature, there is no quick response of resistivity. So that is why these type of alloys are used to manufacture or to construct the standard resistance coils, which are frequently used in the laboratories, especially physics laboratories. So these are the alloys. Which property helps us to make these wires as the standard coils? Poor dependence of temperature, where the resistivity of these alloys do not change quickly for temperature. So this property is made use in constructing the standard resistance coils. So you can notice here a graph. What does the graph says? Let us write this one more thing. They have poor dependence on temperature, means resistivity do not change quickly. Coming to the graph, you can understand one thing. Of course, for this explanation and for this graph, there is no too much relation. But what actually the graph says? The graph says that even at absolute zero temperature, what is meant by absolute zero temperature? We know that 0 degrees Celsius corresponds to 273 Kelvin. Okay. Then, what about minus 273 degrees Celsius? Minus 273 degrees Celsius corresponds to 0 Kelvin. So this is nothing but the absolute temperature. So minus 273 degrees Celsius is nothing but absolute temperature, or 0 Kelvin is nothing but absolute temperature. Even at this temperature, these alloys do not lose its resistivity. They possess still some resistivity. Look here, temperature starts from here. Say for example, if I consider this as 0 Kelvin. At 0 Kelvin, look at, this is the value of resistivity of which wire? Nichrome wire. That is what the graph says. So at 0 Kelvin, so this is the value of resistivity, say for example 1.10. Whereas at the same 0 Kelvin, metallic conductors, pure metallic conductors will have almost zero resistance. This is one difference in which you have to note. At 0 Kelvin, metallic conductors will have almost zero temperature, whereas will have almost this one zero resistivity, whereas in case of alloys at absolute zero or at 0 Kelvin, the resistivity is not zero. And now if the temperature is increased, we can notice that resistivity is also increasing. It increases linearly. So this is the point to be remembered. So even at absolute zero temperature, so resistivity of alloys not equal to 0, but it becomes almost 0 in case of pure metals. So this is what we can understand from the graph. Then coming to the third one, semiconductor and as well as in insulators. We know that insulator do not contain free electrons, but if the temperature of a semiconductor and as well as insulator is increased, then what happens to the resistivity? So in case of semiconductor, as you increase the temperature, its resistivity decreases exponentially. So in case of semiconductor, as temperature is increased, its resistivity decreases exponentially. See, this type of graph represents the exponential decrease. That means as T increases, resistivity decreases. How means? Like this. If resistivity is decreasing, what does it mean? The conductivity of the semiconductor is increasing. Resistivity decreases, thereby its conductivity, which is represented by sigma, increases. So conductivity increases means what? More current will begin to flow through the semiconductor at higher temperature. Because according to this, as T increases, resistivity decreases, conductivity increases. But in case of alloys and as well as copper, if you increase the temperature, then what happens? Resistivity also increase. Either it may increase linearly or it may increase non-linearly, but conductivity decreases in these two cases. But the same situation we do not come across in case of semiconductor. This is a graph of one typical semiconductor, and it holds good. The explanation holds good for insulator also, but this graph is for one of the typical semiconductor to understand that it is a non-linear variation, and in that non-linear variation we come across what type of variation it is? Exponential. If I draw the curve like this, it represents the exponential variation. So this is how the resistivity of the different substances depends on temperature. Okay, thank you.